Welcome participants and learners to this live TC on the topic Introduction to Educational Research. In this session, we will be discussing about some of the very basic aspects of education research, and this topic is related to the postgraduate diploma in higher education. But then I would also say those who are undertaking any research activity like doctoral studies can also make a benefit of this session. Also, I would also say, like those who are doing PhD studies, along with that, those who are doing project work in some of the programs housed at School of Education, we have project work also. Which is not very necessarily would follow the steps or procedures which we do in a doctoral study or research work, but then it is almost similar to that. So those who are doing any project related work also can make use of this session. Now, in this session, basically we will discuss about what education research is about. Then we will see some of the steps which is generally followed in education research. Then the different types of research where we'll be focusing on the qualitative and qualitative side. We will also take you through the steps which is followed in quantitative and qualitative research. At the same time, we will also talking about the mixed method research. Then we will also touch upon some of the major types, or we will say the research designs which we can follow in educational research. So this is in brief about the what we will cover in this session. I am Dr. Ajith Kumar from School of Education. Along with me, we have Miss Mithu Baidya. She is a SRF scholar in the School of Education. So we will be taking you through the discussion mode in this session. So with this introductory remark, I would request Dr. Mithu Baidya to initiate this session.
Sir, would you like to share with us what is the meaning of research? Why the research is important? Why we know what is educational research?
Right. So as Ms. Mithu was asking, we will start with the definition of research. I would request your attention on this slide which is projected. Now you will see a very simple definition which is quoted by Creswell in 2012, which says research is a process of steps used to collect and analyze the information to increase our understanding of a topic or issue. Now it's very simple that way. See, research is a systematic process where we carry out some of the activities in order to increase our understanding of a topic or issue. Like there are different issues associated in if you talk about the discipline of education, but then I would also say it is not only limited to School of Education or discipline of education. There are issues and topics in various other disciplines also. Now there also the research is taking place. They also carry the research in a very systematic form. Now our discussion is basically related to the discipline of education. So we will limit the issues which I am highlighting, which I was pointing out, is related to the educational sector. It can be anything, like there can have issues related to teaching, it can be related to learning, it can be related to the assessment processes, it can be related to some technology use, and there are various other areas also we can undertake. So we will see the issues or a topic from the discipline of education. Then we will come to know there are some issues or problems associated with that area. Then we will take it as a research activity. Now, when we undertake a research work, see, in general, there are some steps usually a researcher would follow. Now again I would request you to look on the screen, which shows the major steps which is carried out in a research activity. In the beginning I was saying we will be working on some issues or topics. So which you will see as a the number one point when we talk about the steps of research, like posing a question. Now we will have that question, which is going to be, of course, the problem which we are going to research. Now since we have a problem, then we will jump on to what we say, collecting data which would help us to answer that particular question. So which is going to be some of the major general step in any research. Now then it is continued to, we will have the data with us, then we will present this answer, or we will find some solutions, or we will come out with some answers for the question which we have done in the first step, which was posing a question or identifying a topic. So what I would say, when we talk about the educational research in general, these are the steps which is in a, you can say it in a very broader sense, these are the steps which we would follow, like posing a question, then collecting data relating to that question, then presenting the answer or finding the solution, or making some interpretation from the data which we have collected, which is of course related to the question which we have formulated in the very first beginning of our research activity. Now let us see when so I suppose you have got a idea about the major steps. Again we would discuss little more in detail about the steps, what all activities we would be carrying out when we have those major general steps in a research. Before that, I would also like to give you some ideas about why this is required. Now, as I said, we will be limiting our topic to the discipline of education, but of course you can also relate this discussion to other disciplines which are there in education. Now, why a research work is important, why it is going to be very important activity. Again, as you see on this slide, you see one of the major thing is research adds to our knowledge. Now, if we talk about this, first point, which is about adding research data or knowledge base, adding data to the knowledge base. Now we have the knowledge base, existing knowledge base. Say for example, I would make it very simple, like we have motivation theories. Now there are standardized motivational theories or learning theories. Now through our research, whether we are adding something related to that theory or something we are bringing new to, which is related to motivation or learning, this is how the existing knowledge get expanded and the knowledge base also gets broadened. So that is going to be one of the major why the research is important. The second idea is research improves the practice. Now see, we have, again I would explain this with some kind of an example, like we were having the COVID time where we were not using much technology in the teaching learning process. Now after the COVID or the pandemic, many of the schools and the higher educational institutions are now using technology in a big way in their teaching learning process. So there is a set pattern of practice which we follow in the teaching learning processes. Now how we can improve, how we can bring in more efficiency, how we can improve the existing teaching learning practices. For that the research result also adds. So that is going to be the second point which you can quote, like why research is going to be important. Third is research informs policy debates. Now if you look at the NEP 2020, the National Education Policy 2020, before coming out with the draft policy also, so many researches have been done. When the draft policy was formulated, again data was collected. So when we collect the data, usually the research data is also taken into account. So the research gives, say for example, like even though it is a very hypothetical kind of explanation, but then I would say, see, technology was not in use, but there are too many technological developments taking place across the globe. So why can't we bring in the technology also? We were using very traditional technologies like the radio and television in the teaching learning process, but now it is not the scenario. There are many other disruptive technologies, so that technologies can also be brought into the teaching learning practices. So how that can be done, the policy also gives a direction, so which is very clear from the National Education Policy 2020, which also talks about various disruptive technologies, and that also has to be used in the teaching learning processes. So I would just take a break and sum up this, why research is important. 2-3 ideas. One, it broadens the existing database and knowledge base. Second, it is going to improve the teaching learning practices very specifically to the education sector. The third is it would help in policy formulations. Now, taking our discussion forward, I was giving a hint on the major steps which we would be undertaking in a research activity. Now, to that I would also go a little beyond and say, when we talk about the steps in research process, as Creswell quoted, he has given 6 steps which you will see on the screen. Like, one is identifying a research problem, the second is reviewing the literature, third is specifying a purpose for a research, collecting data, fifth one is analyzing and interpreting the data, sixth one is reporting and evaluating the research. Let us just take little time to go a little deep into the 6 steps which I was projecting. The first one is identifying a research problem. Now, what we do, see, as you see on the slide, we will specify a problem. Now, there are problems, of course, will be there will be many problems, but then why we should undertake a particular problem for a research work? It is, of course, the duty of the researcher to justify that. So which is what you are seeing on the slide. Justify your problem. Now, you would also see, like, suggest the need to study it for audience. So we would say in a very layman term why we should undertake such a study. We have to point out the need for the study, the rationale for the study, which all these aspects have been included in the first step, which is about identifying a research problem. We would also sometimes say identifying a research variable. The second one is, once that is done, it is the duty of the researcher who would do an extensive review. They would search for the studies which are conducted on that particular problem or that particular variable, which would give you, like, see, some of the sub points like locating the resources, selecting the resources, summarizing the resources. So you will see all these activities, like, basically it is nothing but you will read any kind of soft copy form or hard copy form or technology, non-technology related articles, anything which is necessarily going to be the problem that you have decided to work on, research on. So that's why sometimes we also call it like reviewing the related literature. So you can go, there is no that very much strict criteria, related literature, that's why we say. So the related to that literature variable, you will see what all studies have been done. Now, what all studies can be conducted in the future. So that's why we do the reviewing of related literature, which would again give you some kind of a direction what you will do in your research work. So that is going to be the second. The third is specifying the purpose for research, where you will see identifying the purpose statement, narrowing the purpose statement for research questions or hypothesis. And this is the stage where you will be making more specificity or direction to your research by formulating your research objectives, research questions, formulating hypothesis, etc. So that is going to be the fourth. Now third one. The fourth one is collecting the data. Now you have your research objectives in your mind, your research questions. Now you have to support you have to find solution, answer to your research question, which can be done, of course, by you have to, of course, definitely collect the data which is related to your research question. So here comes all those, there are something called population sampling, the tools, research tools you will use in your research, or all comes here. I am just giving a very broad outline of what is going to be done in collecting data. Now, once you have the data with you, Then you will jump on to the next fifth step, which is about analyzing your data, where you will see you will break down the data, represent the data, explain the data. I would make it simple. You will have different kinds of data depending upon the method of research or the research design which you have selected. Now, you will have sometimes data which is in number format, in numeric format. There can have data which are going to be non-numerical in nature. So the way numerical data and the way non-numerical data analyzed is different. So here comes all those analysis of data. Sometimes we also bring in the statistics. On the other side, if it is a non-numerical data, we will analyze it in separately, where we will bring the ideas of coding, categorizing, themes, etc. So that is going to be the fifth step, and then we will move on to the final one, which is about you have to document your research activity, what all things you have done. So where comes decide on your audience, structure the report, writing the report sensitively. I would also say one point here, like, see, there is no point in researching for yourself. It is for the betterment of the society. There can have other reasons also. Now, as we were discussing, like, see, why it is important, sometimes your research adds to the policy making. It can improve the teaching learning practices. So how it can be done? This will be done when you properly document your research work. So there has to have a proper documentation, reporting of your research activities, which then goes to in different formats, like it can be in soft copy, hard copy form, etc. So then only it will be made available to the general public as a whole, and that's how the general public, the academicians, those who are working in the field of education, will be benefited. So I would take again a simple pause here and to summarize the 6 steps. Now it started with identifying a problem, then we will be doing the reviewing of the related literature, then we will move on to specifying the purpose of our research work, then the data collection, then the data analysis, and finally the preparation of the research report. Now let us move on to 2 important aspects. When we talk about the types of research also, you will see there are 2-3 major types. One is based on the data that we collect. Now what is that? As I said, we have the number form of data, we have the non-number form or non-numerical data also. Now there can have researchers which collects both the number data and non-numerical data also. So depending upon that, you will see 2 approaches or 2 types of research, not 2, in fact it is 3. We started with like 2, then one more was added to that. So as you see on the screen, the first one is the quantitative research, where like what happens in a quantitative research? In quantitative research, the investigator identifies a research problem based on the trends in the field or on the need to explain why something occurs. It's a very general, broad kind of understanding. Basically, to make it very simple, I would say, quantitative data, we will of course work on what we say to identify the trends or something which occurs at present. Now, the data that we collect in quantitative research is going to be more of a number format. On the contrary, you will also see the qualitative research, where it is best suited to address a research problem in which you do not know the variables and need to explore. So if you want to explore something in detail, if you want to go in very deep, then usually we undertake the qualitative research work, where the data that we collect is not going to be much of in number format, but it is going to be in non-number format, non-numerical data. So that is what the qualitative research. We will explore more in detail the what we say the variable or the problem which we have in hand. So these are the major approaches, but then as I said, we sometimes also combine these 2 types of data approaches or types of researches Then we will move on to what we say the mixed method of researching. So what happens in mixed method of research? In mixed method research, we will have, of course, some data in the form of numbers. On the other side, we will also have non-numerical data also. But again, having said that, you should also understand, see, why it has to be taken, why you should go for a mixed method of research. And there are many things which we have to discuss on when we talk about the mixed method research. But for the time being, I am not getting into that. We will just move on to the process which we have discussed, like the 6 steps. Now let us see, as you see on the slide, see how it is done, if it is qualitative or quantitative, or if it is a mixed kind of a design. See, the research process, research problem we have, as I was saying, then the literature review we will do, then research question we will have, then we will move on to 2 types, whether it is a quantitative or qualitative. Now if it is quantitative research, we will see then what kind of a methodology, what kind of a research design we would undertake. Now if that is the case, we will also have to discuss about research designs. So in quantitative research, if you see, there are couple of major quantitative research designs, like one is the experimental, the other is correlational studies, and the other one is survey studies. So these are the major research designs which we do in quantitative studies. On the other side, if it is a qualitative work, we will see the grounded theory designs, ethnographic studies, narrative studies. They are the major, but of course there are a couple of other research methods also which we will bring into that. And if it is a as I said, a mixed method, then it is going to be a mixed method where we include both quantitative and qualitative. Now rest of the processes, as you see on the slide, there remains the same, like data collection, where we need to talk about the sampling, the research tools, data analysis, making interpretation, and finally making a research report. So I suppose you have understood the process that we carry in both qualitative and qualitative work. So with this, we would like to wind up this session. In today's session, we have, in a very brief way, in a very broader sense, we have talked about the meaning of educational research, then the steps followed in educational research, and the types of research, and the steps followed in both qualitative and quantitative research. So with this, we would like to wind up this session. I hope you have understood the ideas, concepts which we have discussed today. Thank you for listening us.